Well, I see we have a quorum, so we can go ahead and draw the meeting to order. And our first item of business is approval of the March 4th meeting minutes, which I sent out to you guys. There wasn't much to them.
Nope. So move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Karen, thank you. Lauren, if you could call on people for their vote.
Mary Beth,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jean.
Yes,
I think that's everyone that's on the commission, right?
Janet and Karen.
Oh, Janet. Sorry, Janet.
That's okay. Yes.
Janet, Karen.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good, good. So last meeting, we talked a little bit about issues around vaccine distribution to eligible people. Hi, Meryl, good to have you joining us.
Oh, Mrs. Byers here.
Where does this stand in your mind at this point? It seems overall things have gotten a little better. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Jean, I missed the question.
The question is around vaccine distribution. Because there was concern about people with disabilities not qualifying, not being able to get to a vaccination site.
My chief concern was that and I don't think it was really addressed that well at that meeting that I did attend, was whether there are people who are homebound, whether they're getting access.
Oh, that's
And I was going to propose that we basically send another letter, just as Arlington had done, just reminding the state COVID task force that those people should not be ignored. I still feel pretty strongly that the needs of a portion of the disability community have not been addressed. There was one person at the meeting who said that, and I was quite disturbed by the woman in the red glasses who was basically parroting what I thought was just, the feeling of the governor's office that things are proceeding, but I still wonder if there is a segment of the disability community that's just simply being ignored. And people are, yes, that's all I have to say. So I was going to propose that we send a similar letter. Yeah.
Janet?
I think you're right, Meryl, and maybe that should go to where you said to the central office. But wouldn't it be just as helpful if somehow the doctors of those people, if you can't get your shot because of disability, shouldn't your primary care have a supply on hand and be able to?
No, they don't. They do
no,
not.
they don't. But shouldn't they? I mean, shouldn't that be maybe an issue for the primary care person to address to the state?
No, I think that the doctors are working through the hospitals and they haven't been very successful in bending the ear of the governor. Actually, if there's anybody who can do something, I believe it's or should be addressed is our legislators.
Yeah.
And I think that we can't sit by idly and just let this all happen. I really don't understand why the state office on disability has not taken some action. I have never heard from Jeff Dugan, and I don't understand what's happening on the state level, that represents people with disabilities
I,
who are in the community.
Mary Beth, did you have a comment?
yes, the last time we talked about this, I had raised the issue that at that forum where Mary Lou Sutters was attending, that
Yes.
was organized by a few different groups, that somebody had mentioned that there was no person with representing disability on the governor's advisory council. And it was suggested that I reach out to Tammy, what's her last name?
Gavea.
Gavea.
Right.
I attempted twice and I didn't get any response. The first time I went on her website and sent an email that way, and I didn't get a response. And when I didn't, I waited, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And I noticed that she had responded to something else I sent her in the past, had to do with the AAB. And so I used that same address link. And again, I didn't get any answer. So I'm not sure what's the deal is with that. But I still don't know. I would say that if that is true, that I think if we wrote a letter to the governor, I think it would be good to ask that somebody be appointed if there really isn't anybody on there,
Yeah.
Well, I believe there is that person who was speaking in that last meeting this week. The woman with the red glasses.
I don't know what meeting it was that you went to.
Jean
don't
had
think-
sent an invitation.
Right. But I don't think I was there. So what was it?
Yes, well, she did not seem to be she is part of the COVID task force. I'm afraid I don't remember her name.
And
But-
is she representing disability community or is she just part of the task force?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
she is. Oh, okay.
She was presenting herself as a representative of the disability community.
Okay.
And I was disturbed because I didn't think that she was representing it
Well.
to the degree that I felt was necessary.
Okay.
So would it be reasonable for us to craft a letter to go to the governor? We can CC our local legislators, Tammy, Jamie,
Yes,
Eldridge, and Kate Hogan. And we should also send it to, I think, to Mary Lou Sutters, who is the head of DPH, Department of Public Health. And
Right.
just and express that we're concerned that people with disabilities are sometimes being overlooked, particularly folks who are mostly homebound.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, Janet, sorry.
May I also suggest, I didn't realize that the neighboring towns all have commissions on disability. Can I also suggest that we send it to, I got a call from Emerson Hospital. Can I also just suggest that we send it to those other commissions? And now I'm gonna
Well, that's
Okay.
why I was suggesting that we CC Jeff Dugan, because
Okay,
I just don't, his organization is the umbrella for all of the
Okay.
commissions of
All
disability.
right.
So that's why I was referring to him.
Okay,
And he has not responded to my phone calls.
Okay. Yeah, Lloyd.
I'm having trouble hearing from time to time. Is that my phone or is there just a problem with other people?
I'm not having a problem hearing. We did have some telephone ringing in the background, but that's done.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not having a problem either. No.
Okay. So, Meryl,
Yes,
would you be willing to work with me to draft a letter?
sure.
Okay,
I'm happy to. Yeah, the Arlington letter was quite good in its.
okay. So maybe
description.
we can not quite plagiarize, but maybe we can look at some of their comments and
Right.
and think about those as points that we might want to raise as well.
Jean, can I just
Right.
make a comment?
Sure.
I believe the Board of Health was given the option to work with the state to do homebound or have one of the mobile units go out. So I wonder if in that letter you should also include the local Board of Health, because they
Sure.
might have more of a pull to be able to get vaccines. I believe they were given the choice to organize their own clinics or go through the state.
Okay, certainly.
Who was just speaking? Was that Bonnie?
Lauren,
No, Lauren from the
Oh,
COA.
Lauren.
Yeah.
So they were, how did our local Board of Health respond, Lauren? Do you have any idea?
I don't know if they have responded. My understanding was that they were contacted from the state and asked essentially whether or not they wanted to organize their own clinics or whether they wanted the state to provide the mobile unit, and they were supposed to respond as far as the need in their own community. So I'm not sure that that was addressed, but if the Disability Commission hasn't reached out to the local Board of Health, they may not be aware that there's a need that they haven't addressed.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. We can
Really?
That's
certainly
great.
include them.
Great.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we probably need a motion to craft this letter and to have Meryl and I work on it.
I'd like to move that we write a letter to the above mentioned group of people stating that there are needs in the disability community that are not being met in terms of accessibility to vaccines.
Okay.
second,
Who seconded?
I did, Lloyd.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lauren.
Okay, let's see if I get this right.
Now we've got it. I think 6 of us on the call.
So do I need to call everyone out by name? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let me help with this.
Okay.
Mary Beth.
Yes.
Okay, Janet,
yes,
Karen,
Yes.
okay, Jennifer,
Yes.
Meryl,
Yes.
Lloyd? Lloyd? I saw your mouse say yes. You must have been muted. Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay, and Jean, I vote yes. Okay, let's move on to needs of people with cognitive disabilities, and I will let you know that the third item on the agenda, the White Pond update, I don't have any info on that. Pat Nelson, did you have a comment?
I did. I had a question, and thank you for having the middle school building committee here. I don't think we understood that we would be sort of towards the end of the agenda, and we have some of our professionals who may have to leave before we get there. And I don't want to be pushy, but I wondered if it would be possible, Jean, if we could, move up a little bit in the agenda.
Sure.
Sure. So Lloyd, would that be all right with you if we switch these?
It would be, also, I really don't have much to report, so I
Okay.
think it's gonna have to be the next meeting. So, yeah,
Okay.
let's leave it at that.
All
for
right.
now. Thank
Then
you.
let's move on to the Concord Middle School plans. And thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Dr. Lori Hunter, for coming tonight to speak with us and other members of the committee.
So Laura, you want to?
Yeah, maybe I'll just cue it up and then turn it over to the team. And we should do introductions first, I would think. I'm Lori Hunter, the superintendent of schools here in Concord. Let me see, I have to do my little squares here. Kristen, do you want to go next? And then we'll make our.
Sure. Kristen Olson, project manager and architect with SMMA, the design team. And Matt?
Matt Rice, architect with SMMA.
Phil?
Bill Poinelli, educational planner with SMMA.
Pat, why don't
Ian
you-
is,
Uh, Ian Parks, Hill International. We're the OPM, Owners Project Manager for the town.
and I'm Pat Nelson. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Middle School Building Committee. And I'm really happy to be here because I see so many people I recognize.
So I think we're gonna just turn it over. Kristen's got a slide deck for you with updates on where we are in the project. We're really early in the process, trying to decide what we need in a new school and how and we'll talk on how we come about that and the work we've been doing so that it's, hopefully going to be a proposed building that really meets the needs of the community for many, many years. So Kristen, why don't I turn it over to you and
Could I just make one quick comment before you start,
Sure.
Kristen? So Pat and Lori, I really want to thank you for reaching out to us early on in this process. We really do want to be a resource for the town and be able to help in the planning stages of things versus the folks that come to us to have us try to fix it for them afterwards when things didn't get done correctly in the first place. So thank you very much for thinking about that and for reaching out.
Great, thanks, Jean. We're glad you're in this discussion really early too, because we do want your feedback and input along the way. So Kristen, why don't you kick open the slides for us?
So thanks again for inviting us. I'm going to go through some of these slides at a little bit of a quicker pace so that we can get to your questions quickly. I also wanted to mention that we're going to kind of go through the process and timeline and where we are today. And we do have some additional slides on inclusion and universal design and things like that. And we're happy to dive into that some more too if there are questions that resonate on those subjects. So where we are now is the educational plan and program development. It's the first piece of what is part of any K-12 building project. And so I actually get to hand it right back to Lori to speak a little bit about teaching and education, because that is in fact where we as a design team start as well.
Great, thanks, Kristen. I'm going to do these at a very high level. These are the goals that the entire district is focused on. Really trying to be sure we're giving kids a lot of different ways to be successful. And certainly part of that work is the work with our special education population. You'll hear reference to, we've built a lot of intensive programming and are keeping most of our kids in district now rather than sending them to other settings. And we're really having a vision of inclusion for kids with more mild needs and that they can be part of the general population. So it's a lot of real focused visioning work going on in terms of what we're hoping this building will offer our special education students. And I won't read these all to you. You can see well-being, and by that we mean overall inclusive culture. And that includes making sure kids of all kinds feel welcome in our community and part of the community, and making sure it's accessible. And then finally, the last is the building and itself, and making sure that outdoor and indoor spaces are really promoting all of those other initiatives. And then I will let you read these all by yourself. These are the actual goals of Concord Middle School currently: community, high achievement, and lifelong learning.
So as Lori mentioned, we're very early in the process, and part of a key element of the feasibility study is balancing scope, or square footage and program, schedule and budget. And so our major charge for these 4 months is really making sure that all of those pieces are in perfect harmony as with the three-legged stool. The project goals that I'm sure you've heard a few times are that we're working within a total project cost range of $80 to $100 million. The goal is to combine the 2 middle schools into one. The design enrollment that was studied through demographics and so on is 700 students. And the teaching model that is what's happening in the buildings today and will be happening in the new school is a team teaching model, and that differs from the junior high model, which we can explain if there are questions on that down the road. And then of course, sustainability goals in Concord are of the highest, and so we're working toward a net zero energy ready building, and so we're very excited about that. We've been doing a lot of listening sessions and will continue because, again, community input is just key, and the earlier the better. Our process is that we take any information, bring it to subcommittees, then get subcommittee feedback, bring it to the community, and are constantly looping and folding in that information as we go through the process. So in terms of a more concrete timeline for feasibility, we're here in mid-March, and we're starting the concept development. So none of the subcommittees or building committee have seen any updated floor plans or site plans yet, so we don't have those to share yet tonight either. But we just completed that space summary and project requirements phase. So over the next 2 months, if you follow along with the other meetings as well, you'll start to see some buildings footprint and design take shape. So we're going to be doing that through the end of April, and then a report, and then we kick into schematic design, which is much more detailed. This is what our design currently looks like. It is a long list of spaces and square footages and quantities. So there's a line item for every aspect of the building in here, and it all comes together to a 143,000 square foot building approximately. This is actually being posted on the building committee website right now. So anybody can take a look and really zoom in and see what's in each of those categories. This is what we're using as a starting point for those floor plans. So the education plan that the school department developed is also available on the building committee website, and it has a lot of those goals and drivers to how the teaching spaces should be sculpted kind of indicated in there. And so for us, key drivers were the team teaching model. It does have a different impact to space that we'll talk about in a moment. Flexible teaching and learning, 21st century teaching, there are breakout spaces and small spaces and large spaces, and a lot of flexibility in teaching so that the curriculum can really be suited to all. The World Language, Music, and Arts program at Concord is very robust, and so something that's unusual for middle schools that we have in Concord, though, is an auditorium, so it's less typical. And then also emphasis on wellness, tying back to that ed plan for healthy indoor environments and alternate PE. So this is what a team structure looks like. It has the core classes in teams, and each grade level is comprised of 3 teams. So that's how it breaks down in a more graphic style. The class size is currently looking to be 19 to 20 students is what the design is for each class. And then a little bit more on the specific spaces is you'll have your gymnasium with a basketball court that's being discussed if there should be 2 full-size basketball courts or just 1. That's on the table for discussion with the building committee at this time. Music and performance, we already discussed the auditorium. It's being sized for 1 grade level. So that's for 233 students plus teachers and so on. So it's about 270 seats is what we're looking at right now. And then orchestra, band rooms, general music. World language, again, a lot of classroom for world language due to the program that's already in place in the schools. and art, special education spaces, media and maker, family and consumer science and technology. And again, happy to dive into any of those when we get to Q&A. So in summary, all of the spaces add up to that 143,000 gross square feet, which is what our concepts are starting with. And what was key to note during this process is we were really revisiting all the programs and making sure that we had all the spaces right and tailored to the educational plan and the needs, because the budget and the schedule, we just need to make sure, again, that all of those pieces are in harmony. Once the square footage is set, then we can start doing a check on costs. And so we performed a very high level preliminary cost analysis. And a construction cost is generally comprised of these pieces here: the building itself, demo and abatement of the existing school, the site costs, which includes the athletic fields and parking and walks, and then markups, which are escalation contingency and those pieces that make up the construction cost. And based on the square footage and our assumptions right now, we are tracking at $80 million in construction cost, which translates to just under $100 million in project costs. So we are within the town's parameters, albeit at the upper end of that. So I can take a pause here and see if there are any questions on process and timeline. And then if not, I can hand off to Phil, who can talk a little bit about how inclusion and universal design kind of plays itself out in later phases.
This is Lloyd Price. I have a question. It's a little off, but when a building is designed, what is the proposed life expectancy, useful expectancy of the building?
I think Matt is ready to answer that question. I see.
50 years is typically the building duration. Reality is it will probably last longer. If we shoot for 50 years, we probably get additional years of life, of expected life out of it. Some of the aspects, or some of the parts and pieces that we put in the building just have a shorter operational lifespan, some of the mechanical systems, for instance. But overall, the 50-year target is what we aim for.
Thank you.
I have a question. I had heard that one of the components for the middle school would be an auditorium or space anyway large enough for a town meeting. Is that still on the table?
I can start with that, and then Lori, I don't know if you want to fill in. It was something that was asked to test, and we looked into what the requirements for that would be, and it was determined that it would need to be around 500 seats ideally, which obviously we couldn't accommodate that within our budget, and also looking at the school and the site constraints. What we ended up doing was sizing it really for the day-to-day function in the educational program as our minimum starting point to be really responsible with the budget. And if there had been, more room, more demand, and funding in site area, we would have looked into others further.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. It's definitely been explored, and it's a combination of a number of factors that make it look not viable right now.
Okay, thank you.
We've had that request. We heard that a lot along all these listening tours, so it definitely got a good solid look.
And I will say the town manager is still considering the possibility of the gymnasium being used. I think the high school is also sometimes used as the gymnasium for a town meeting. And so it's kind of an infrastructure question. We can possibly fit out the gymnasium so that it can have that capacity. So that's something that we can continue to look at.
Meryl?
Yes, I just have a question of how many students you anticipate being in the school, and whether there's one location where they could all meet together.
Great question. So right now we're building for 700 students.
So,
And yes, we think that's a priority right now. You know, with the Peabody and Sanborn situation, there's never an opportunity to put all 3 grades together.
Right.
And we miss that. The gymnasium will accommodate that. And so we're really excited to have a place to bring them all together and do whole school kinds of events. Yeah, it's definitely a missing piece right now for us.
So there wouldn't be an auditorium for that. You'd be using the gym for it.
Right. We'll be able to do 1 grade level all together in the auditorium. So that feels like it's a nice balance. We do a lot of activities that are by grade level, so that'll accommodate that. And then we can still put everyone in the same place in the gym.
I see.
Janet, I think you had your hand up first.
How about ramps at all doors? Not a special handicapped access, but ramps at all doors.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to speak to accessibility?
Sure. So at all the doors into the building, any entrance is going to be fully accessible by nature. So there would not be any steps of any sort located at the entrances. And even the current MAB code says that at our exit doors, we cannot have steps going out of the building. So I know that's what everyone is familiar with from school buildings, because historically that's what you find. But a modern building like the school that we'll be designing and building will not have any type of steps.
Does that mean even a curb cut, and not even a curb, it will be a flat out? Oh, that's great.
Correct.
Is this a multi-level building? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
So let me just answer. Yes, there are 3 stories that are planned for the building. So there will be elevator service between those floors in terms of providing accessibility to the upper and lower levels.
I think Jennifer has a question. You're muted, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jean. So are you programming the outdoor space? And if you are those spaces accounted for in the spreadsheet that you showed?
So it's too early to be designing that per se. We will be giving, so it doesn't have a place in the spreadsheet, but it has a place on our thinking and design approach always. So we've already been talking about outdoor classrooms and outdoor learning. So there will definitely be a place for that, and that would be accommodated in the site budget.
And maybe just to anticipate the question behind that question or related to that question, all the surfaces for those outdoor learning environments would also be fully accessible. So we will be staying away from wood chips, for instance, as a surface, both for play areas and for outdoor learning environments. Typically, resilient materials end up in the play areas, whether or not the outdoor learning environments have resilient material as well, or they may have some type of paving. But any of the materials that we choose will be fully accessible in terms of wheelchair access and other access.
Jane, I have a question for you. You started this by saying that you were happy we were here in the beginning, that sometimes you get called in on projects and it's to fix something that's broken. And I'm curious about what some of those things are that we should either be looking out for, that Phil can maybe even respond to now. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's just curious.
Yeah, I think we've dealt with some issues like the lift into the pools at the Beatty Center, entrances to a building at Gaining Ground, and the ability to have the correct access for the bathroom there. Those are a couple that come to mind. Meryl and Jennifer.
Jennifer can probably speak more, but the playing fields at the high school
Yes,
were quite a big issue for us. The way they were designed was not accessible, and it's still a work in progress, but it was really a big issue.
yeah, thank you, Meryl. Yeah, the ramp to nowhere.
Jean, I was going to say the same thing to follow up on Meryl's comment that we've seen a lot of disconnect between inside spaces and outside spaces, especially at this level of school age level, middle school. The value, as you know, the value of those outside spaces, especially during our COVID era, are even more relevant, and they need to be accessible as well. So it's clear this team understands that. But we have had to advise on the fact that those outdoor spaces are as important and an equal part of the educational program as the indoor spaces are, and that they also need to be accessible. One other follow-up to that is the idea that there's a regular or a majority strategy for access, and that there's a separate less of a majority strategy that could be access to a program. It could be access to a space. Like there's one door for most people, and then if you really have to go in, there's another way around. So that would be the other more inclusive strategies rather than accessible strategies that we are always encouraging folks that come to the commission to adopt.
So if I could address that a little bit, these are issues that you will be able to see graphically in the schematic design phase. This is not something that we leave to latter stages of design development or contract documents. Oh, we have to do this. So you will have early access once the plans are developed and access is provided throughout the town to the design, that we can engage with you on that. But again, it's thought of at the very earliest stages of design.
Thank you. Yeah, Janet, you have another question?
I do. I was just thinking about Braille. What about accommodations to people with sight impairments?
So all of the signage that will be located throughout the building in terms of room identification will incorporate Braille as part of it. That's again required by the access board as well as the ADA guidelines. So the signage will be in full compliance with that. And then I think beyond that, we'll look also for opportunities to integrate Braille into some of the directories and the wayfinding that is just absolutely necessary in buildings these days. As the buildings get a little bit larger and you have visitors coming in, because there is a high degree of community use that we anticipate for the building. We want to make sure that everyone that comes into the building has the ability to find where they're going to.
I should tell you, there's a group of middle schoolers last year, pre-COVID, before we closed, took upon themselves as a special project creating Braille signs for, Sanborn has none of this, right? So making sure that there was Braille throughout the building, so the room numbers were in Braille, so that any child with disabilities could find their space. It was really a great, exciting project, because all from their initiative. We had a chance to talk about the kids. I have to slide it in.
That's great.
I love the building,
great.
but I always divert over to the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, one other thing we're really excited about, I mentioned these intensive special education programs. We're keeping a lot more kids, not all, some need to go out, of course, because that's the best place for them, but we're keeping more students in district, and we have to be sure the building space is accommodating that. And to all the points you just made, that it's not an extra or an add-on, it's really integrating them into the life of the building. And as we've really grown more and more of these programs, we're just seeing all the benefits to the kids with disabilities, but also incredible benefits to the rest of the school population. So it'll be really exciting to see a new building created with that mindset, rather than, Sanborn and Peabody right now, we're totally, trying to put the square peg in the round hole a bit. So this is going to be excellent for those groups of kids.
Jennifer and then Karen.
On that note, Dr. Hunter, so with this goal to keep more kids in district instead of leaving the district, I saw in the preview of the program that you're adding a lot more space to the building, to this new building than you have currently in the combined buildings for special ed space at the site. So, but space doesn't necessarily drive program doesn't has to drive space. And so my question is, who on the team, who is advising you right now on the team from that perspective to help guide the design team in terms of what they need and where it should go and all that good stuff?
Yeah, great question. So obviously it's being highly informed by our own staff, but we've also been reaching out to groups like yours. Remind me, Kristen, of the group we met with out of Boston already.
Valerie
Institute for
Fletcher?
Human, yep,
Yeah.
the IHCD.
Yep, so we already met with the IHCD and we'll continue to engage with them. Certainly we want you all to be part of that discussion. And CPAC is our Special Education Parent Advisory Council. We stay closely in touch with them. We have another meeting set up with them in about 2 weeks. So they're ebbing and flowing through the process as well. So as many perspectives as possible is really, I think, the answer to that. Educators, parents, community groups, professional organizations, and obviously this really strong design team that we're working with.
So sorry, just to follow up. So that means that there's not like a central coordinator for the special ed program that's feeding into the actual empirical spaces and decisions that you're making on the site.
Are you talking on the education side or the building?
On the education side, yeah.
Yeah, so, obviously our special education director here is very involved, and we actually have other layers of coordinators. Actually, we just hired, so good timing. This morning I hired an in-house coordinator who's going to be that conduit between all the internal programs we're building. So I think you just gave me a new job responsibility for her. She needs to stay very close to this, yeah.
Let me say that back in January of 2020, we met with all of the staff in the school, and that included all of the special education teachers, and so that was a very important part of the process, and that was before we even started putting the room spaces and types and numbers together. And so that is going to happen again as we get into the next stage of design, where we're going to meet with the educators and talk about the specific spaces, what goes into those spaces, how they function, and also bring ideas that we have encountered in other school districts and seen in other parts of the country. So we have a rather deep portfolio of thoughts on the subject, and so it's really a matter of getting the teachers to open up and talk about the spaces, and then collaborate. And it's an awful lot of collaboration effort that gets us to where we need to be.
Again, if I may just follow up, I think that's great, but it's not the teachers that you've already met with, special ed teachers that you've already met with, that I'm concerned with. The issue is that you're looking to keep more kids in district than you currently have. And so you may need to talk to teachers who aren't in your special ed department yet, because you're looking to keep students who aren't in your special ed department now, and that you're trying to bring them in who have a different set of needs. And so I think just, obviously, I don't mean to preach to the choir here, but just making spaces and filling in from other schools isn't going to be nearly as useful as understanding who are those children and what do they need coming into the district.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. For example, And I think, you know, it includes any kids who are already out of district, if we want to really consider that, but it also includes our feeder programs, which right now are at the elementary schools. You know, I need to bring, you know, a good example is we have a couple of strong autistic programs at Thoreau right now with the little kids in them. Those teachers need to be part of this discussion because that population of need isn't currently in the middle school. So to your point, Jen, the teachers there may not have exactly that right perspective. So I hear you totally.
Karen, I think you've been trying to ask a question.
Maybe I'm a little early coming into this, but one concern that I had, or a question, was I feel very strongly about having the special ed classrooms integrated into the spaces and not like shoveled off onto a separate hallway. My son attended the Pathways program at the new high school, and the classroom was lovely, but it was, you know, in this wing by itself. So no matter how much the students traveled back and forth throughout the day to attend other classes, there was always that kind of, I don't know, stigma might be too strong a word, but that, you know, isolation from the rest of the school. And it sounds like you're trying to bring inclusivity into this whole building, which is a wonderful, wonderful concept. And I'm excited to hear about it. But I would, you know, feel very strongly that those classrooms should be more, you know, as a part of the other classrooms in that grade level.
We agree completely. I'm smiling because I think they might have heard us say this to them, and the design team has already addressed it. So I don't know if you want to talk a little on that, any of you.
Yeah, so they will be fully integrated. They are in all of our schools. They're very much part of the total community. And when it's an MSBA project, there's actually an extra set of checks on that. The plans after schematic design are submitted to DESE, or the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And they perform a review, an independent review, to make sure that that integration is happening. So we have the option of doing that, even though we're not an MSBA project, but the design team is very much accustomed to doing that and already all in the works.
Okay, great. And Kristen, I think you had more slides to show us, more of the presentation.
This is Bonnie. I have one question that is, I can put out shortly to move things along. But we've been talking about hearing loss through the town with the work of a group in town. So they have come with some good solutions to work on with the town on signage and training, as well as integrated systems. So I'm wondering if you're doing things with that, and if not, you know, what they've already been doing in town might be a good place for information.
Great. Kristen, I think most of your slides covered topics we just talked about. Is there anything different on there?
They go into a little bit more detail on small group rooms and kind of some of the more specific spaces and how they're used. But I mean, we have provided them to you for your review. And I think that maybe the best thing would be for you to really kind of take a look at them. And then when we come back with floor plans, we can have that as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
One of the things that, a question that when we first opened up to questions, was about the lifespan of the building. And that was thought of, I think, from the standpoint of a physical standpoint. Part of my job is thinking about how the building is going to function for those 50 years. And so there's an awful lot of thought that goes into flexibility of being able to accommodate differentiated and personalized learning, the social emotional learning, universal design for learning, giving children choices and empowering them to make choices on their own education. And so these are all discussions around education that actually manifest themselves in the built environment. And that's a great deal of, when you start to see the floor plans, we're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about the relationships of a child who needs some assistance, and instead of being taken down the hall or across the other end of the building, as Kristen identified, we talk about pullover spaces, not pull out, but pull over. They're immediately adjacent to the classrooms, and so a child could be pulled over for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or if necessary, a whole period. But the idea is that they have the ability to get the assistance they need close by, within eyeshot of their peers, and be able to then re-enter their classroom. So these are a lot of the things that you're going to start to see take physical form and respond to the special needs of students today, but also how those are going to carry over with flexibility into the future, when we're talking about education that we have no idea what it's going to look like in 50 years. So it's going to really have to have that kind of deep thought and so we'll take you through that, and we'd love to engage you more in those discussions.
Yeah, Meryl.
I'm wondering if you could just clarify again. You have definitely ruled out the concept of a large auditorium. Is that right? That could be integrated with the gymnasium. I mean, it couldn't be just one, like a performing arts type center. That has been ruled out already. Is that correct?
Just last week, the subcommittee and full building committee brought forward the most recent list of space, matched it up against the budget, matched it up against the educational needs, and yes, vetted it against what the community is hoping for in different spaces. And at this point, we weren't able to get a bigger auditorium in the budget and still, come out in a place where the community had targeted for cost. So it is out as of right now. And I suspect given the cost differential, it's going to stay that way. But we did spend we took a break for COVID, but we've been at this since the November prior. And it really has been explored. I assure you, a lot of voice on that we tried.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Well, I don't see any more questions or any more hands up. So I really, really want to thank you all for coming tonight and sharing this with us. Again, we really appreciate being able to be part of the process as you're working through this. And it's exciting to think about what it's going to look like at the next phase.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you, Jean.
We'll see you again soon.
Good night.
Hey, yeah. So Lloyd, we asked you to switch positions, and I think you had mentioned there wasn't a whole lot to discuss tonight. Do you have something to share with us, or do you want this to go on the agenda for next meeting? And you're muted right now, Lloyd.
Yeah, please put it on the agenda for next time. Then I will hopefully have some more definitive information to share.
Okay, great. And I'm going to reach out to Kate before our next meeting and see where things stand on White Pond. I think it's probably going to be time for us to circle back before they actually start to do anything in the spring. And so we'll talk about needs of people with cognitive disabilities, White Pond. And Bonnie, do you have any sense of where the hearing loss group stands?
There isn't an update since they started working with the person from the town
Okay,
that I've heard. Yeah.
okay. All right, so Kate may be able to fill me in on that a little bit as well. And we can invite them back if they want to come.
Pretty sure they did have a demonstration because they were here.
Oh, good.
So
Good to know.
hopefully there is some update.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think they're on their way, and they kind of said thank you and we're good.
Okay,
And they're, yeah.
all right.
Lloyd, I just want to make sure you did get my email reply.
Yeah.
Okay,
What is there a good, I did, and thank you. What is a good, is there a good time and number I can reach you at tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes, the number that I put in the email, with
Okay.
the 3111 ending,
Right.
and I should be able to talk between like 11 and 1 because
Okay.
we're doing a clinic in the afternoon.
All right, thanks. I'll be sure to give you a call tomorrow. Good then. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, Karen.
I had an email today from Erin Stevens asking if we wanted to submit an annual report to the town report. Apparently it was due the end of February, but I just got this message today, and I asked her if we had submitted one last year, and she sent me a report, and there was actually we had taken a little group photo,
Right.
and the report was about 3 paragraphs long. She said it's not required, but it's kind of standard practice. So if we want to, we have about a week or 10 days to submit something. I told her I'd get back to her because we were meeting tonight.
Sure. Karen, I'll send you, I actually submitted that report.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even
like, I don't know, whenever, I don't remember when it was due, but I did submit the report. So maybe it got lost in COVID land or something. But I'll send that off to you.
Okay, I told her I'd get back to her one way or the other. Oh,
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dean, I have to sign April 8th, second Thursday.
So, yeah, next meeting would be April 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any last comments, issues, concerns, anyone?
Jean, if you can just locate that letter from Arlington and send it to me, I'll begin to edit it.
Okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do.
If someone knows where to find it in my vast email collection, I may have trouble. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I might be able to find that. I think I'm the one that circulated it originally. So I'll look for it.
Oh, thank you, Mary Beth.
Mary Beth. Okay. You're welcome.
If you can't find it, let me know and I'll dig around.
Okay.
I do try to file everything in my Commission on Disabilities file.
I can probably find it. So
okay, thank you.
I'll send it to you, Meryl. Yeah.
Will you CC me on that too, Mary Beth, so that Meryl and I can work together on this?
Yes, I will.
Great. Yeah. All right. Anything else from anyone? A motion to adjourn?
The reason that I had my granddaughter wave to you all is because Prow is a neighbor of hers.
Oh.
That's why I wanted her to.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I didn't look carefully at the agenda, but the issue of grants and all of that stuff? Where is that at? Are we doing that next time or talking more
Yeah.
about? that? Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, a motion to adjourn. Janet moves, so we adjourn. Meryl is seconding, I think. Okay, let me go through here. Janet? Yes?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Hi, Pro.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Was that Proud? Hi, Proud. Did you see Kayla?
Yeah, I did.
My trash, she's my trash girl. She lives next door to Proud.
So tell you what, I need to just ask two more people. Mary Beth, yes?
Yeah.
And Bonnie? Okay, so Janet and Prow and Jennifer, if you want to stay on, anybody who wants to stay on and just visit, I think this is available for a little while. And the rest of us can step out of the meeting.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Is that the disability?
Yeah.
You know, I was wondering, I got this invitation through the CMS building, but I was trying to figure out how I can listen in on the meetings. Is there a way, do I need to get an alert or something? Because obviously there's a password.
I think, Proud, that you can just, are there just the four of us on this now? Yeah.
I think
No,
so.
I'm leaving.
Okay,
Mary
I think, I mean, I can't Proud just ask Jean to put her on the mailing list?
I think that's a good idea, Janet. The other thing is it's the link for the meeting is in the agenda.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I think it's at the town website.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at. But I mean, I probably have to look at it closer and see if it's there. Let me see. Anyways, I won't hold up your time, but if it's not
No,
there,
but I
I'll
think
reach out.
that if you ask Jean to be put in the mailing list, she'll just put you on it.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Is that, does everybody agree with that? Is that?
It's supposed to be there. It's a public meeting and anyone can come
Yeah,
and should
you can
know
absolutely
about
come.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
here was my concern, because I figured it was public, but it asked for a password.
But you'll get all that in the, oh, is that?
Yeah, so
It had to be on the agenda
It
that they
is.
post.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
There's a meeting ID and a password. Although I've never had to use it. I
had to use it tonight.
Oh, you did?
Oh,
Okay.
all right, okay, all right.
So both of those are on the agenda right underneath the link.
Yeah, and anybody, it's a public meeting, anybody can come.
Okay, all right, well, I have here the next meeting's April 8th, so. just
Yeah.
so you know. I don't know why I've never come to the meeting before, but you know, it's like I said, I just knew about it because I've been following the CMS, you know, the building community and accessibility and just the whole auditorium, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, yeah. But there were some good questions tonight about the auditorium. The school in general is accessible, and Jennifer, I'm glad you brought up the outdoor space, which is very important. You know, obviously we don't want wood chips out there or anything. So,
No. And more than ever, right? The outdoor spaces are as important as more important than the indoor spaces.
Yeah.
So it's just when you talk to architects, they're very object focused.
Yes.
You know, they focus on the building and they're, you know, SMMA they do this in their sleep. They're really good at these kinds of buildings, but they're architects first.
Yes.
And they are not, I was so disappointed, to be perfectly honest, between the three of us, that they got the contract to do this. I was so disappointed because they just, you know, they'll do it, they'll check all the boxes, which is good. Like they'll make it
but they're not
easy.
thinking outside the box.
No.
And that's
Exactly.
Right.
So we'll try to hold their feet to the fire, certainly from an accessibility perspective.
Well, you know, because what happened with the high school, I mean, that was, trying to get Justin down from the parking lot down to the field. You're going all over Earth's creation to try to get him down there. And, and even my in-laws, who are whatever, close to 80 years old, trying to get to his graduation. That whole, anyways, you get the picture. So
yeah, but that's good to know. I mean, if that's, we can definitely do our job and hold their feet to the fire on those things here.
Yeah,
so.
and so
But do Prowl, so you have so much experience in accessibility. Do sit in on the meetings. And Jennifer, is Prowl allowed to, do we encourage visitors to ask questions? Could she have?
Oh, yes, I could have raised my hand, but I just wanted, being my first meeting, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And
okay.
And I'm glad.
You would be a wonderful member of this commission. You have so much experience in this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well,
so
I was part of the Ride Out Playground committee. So I was happy to do that. But yeah, just getting my feet wet.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see the both of you though, because I know how involved you guys are. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's so cool. And there's Janet, just so that you know too, there's a public comment section and on every agenda. So in every meeting, there's always
Oh
room
yeah, of
to say
course.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're honestly proud. We're pretty. When we follow the rules as best as we can, to all the extent of our knowledge. But we're pretty. It's a pretty relaxed commission. So there's always room for comments in between. So.
I just would be encouraged to ask a question during the presentation.
Yeah.
Would that be acceptable?
Oh yeah, because you can raise your hand and all that stuff, and I'm sure Jean is probably looking at the comments, and so it's all good. And I was actually in the kitchen cooking, so I didn't want to show myself. I was slicing fruits for Justin because Chris is taking it to the dorm tonight. So I'm like,
I was going to ask, is Justin at school? Is he?
Yeah, so him and his brother at school. So Nicholas, my youngest one, is Justin's personal care.
Oh, good. So they're both the same school.
Yeah, and they got to be roommates.
Oh,
so,
great.
Yeah.
So which school is Justin?
Worcester Polytech.
Nice, really?
Okay, can I just say, disability wise, they are so on top of it. Justin helped design some of their interactive map where to find stairs and elevators and how to get from here or there. So they are so on it, and we are so happy with WPI.
Good. Well, he must be. I mean, he's older than.
He's younger than Kayla. He's a junior right now.
Junior, so he's a year younger than Kayla.
Yeah, and then Nicholas is a freshman. Yeah. I know. So very happy. But I do have to take my daughter to a class. But it was great seeing you.
Nice seeing you, bro.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Bye,
okay,
Janet.
bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Hanging up.